So I'm here to present Eitan. Where is he? Where's the dude? Where is he? Woo! Hey! Woo! Li-li-li-li-li-li! Li-li-li-li-li-li! Li-li-li-li-li-li-li-li! Let's go! Woo! They're not done. So to cut it short, because you don't really want to hear from me, this is Eitan, the mensch, right? The mensch, the dynamo, best dad and husband, founder of Natty Branding Agency. Eitan has been delivering international brands for over 25 years. His clients have included Google, Apple, Facebook, YouTube, you know, all the small brands. In 2016, he released the video, I'm That Jew, which has been viewed over 50 million times and represents every side and all the facets of our beautiful people. Since October 7th, Eitan has shifted his entire universe by spending all of his time 24/7 advocating for not only the Jewish people, the state of Israel, our hostages, and the hostage families. His work online has been viewed 250 million times, and Erin, who happened to hear about him, had him on his show, and they became friends. Eitan lives here in Israel with his wife and 2 children. Who wrote this? Wait, his amazing wife and incredible children.
Who I couldn't do any of this without.
Exactly. Erin Molan. All of us take a deep breath. What can we say about how much we love her? She's the brave lioness, known globally for her fearless voice, moral clarity in calling out hypocrisy. She has come all this way to be with us from Australia. Erin is passionate about politics, national security, and foreign affairs, and uses her platform to support countless charities and causes, including Bowel Cancer Australia, Dreams to Live For, Sid2 Camera, and Tresilian. She travels the world sharing her story of persistence, resilience, failure, and always fronting up regardless of what is thrown her way. She is an incredible mum, like me, always ensuring negative experience become a catalyst for change, always with a laugh along the way. Erin is considered inspiring and empowering the next generation of Australians, and I think all the global citizens, as a genuine privilege and responsibility. Erin, we have the utmost respect and love for what you do for us daily. Through the hardest and darkest times, it's our utter privilege to welcome you. Thank you.
That's what you do, apparently.
I wouldn't know. I don't work in TV anymore. I don't know how it works.
Yes, you do. We're friends. Like, we've become friends, and we're still getting to know each other. I've never done anything like this before. I mean, people know me for the work that I do, but I've never put together an event. So I'm winging it. But I think you do gifts at the end, but there's something that I've been meaning to give you for a long time, and it's not just for me. It's from Israel, and it's from the Jewish people. I need you to stand up so I can give it to you.
Thank you. From Eitan, his wife's right there.
My wife is fine with it. So I have a whole bunch of questions. But now that we've got the hug out, how are you, Erin, not the slick TV, put together, amazing professional that you are? How are you, Erin, the person, doing?
Well, thank you for asking. I'm incredible. Like I'm tired and I'm horrified by what I've seen. My heart is broken that, and don't get me wrong, I love people who like me. It's one of my favorite things. But the fact that a country thinks that I'm special because I tell the truth is actually really heartbreaking. And as much as I'm so grateful and I feel so valued and it's such a beautiful feeling, it makes me so deeply uncomfortable that you are so alone, that me, just little old me from Australia, looking at facts, telling the truth and saying what I think is considered special is really sad. But I went to the Western Wall this morning and I was told to write a note to put in the wall. And I mean, it's been a big month, right? Like things haven't been going particularly well in a few different ways in my life. And so I kind of wrote, "Dear God," and I had like 30 things I was weighing up. I thought I should probably stick to 10 in case, he thinks I'm being greedy. And I actually legitimately just wrote "thank you." And it's crazy because there's a lot of stuff I could use right now, but for some reason, and I don't know if it's being here in your incredible country or being surrounded by so much love, I just feel the most incredible gratitude that I think I've ever felt in my life. And I have perspective. Like I live in a country that doesn't have sirens, that isn't surrounded by bloodthirsty, scumbag, terrorist pieces of shit. Sorry, are we allowed to swear? Is that all right?
Fuck yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Permission granted. I have a healthy, incredible, beautiful little girl. I get upset if she has a blocked nose, like if she's lying next to me. I mean, it's annoying because it makes noise, but the thought of her suffering makes me feel physically ill. So my perspective in terms of what you all deal with day in, day out, I will never, ever not be amazing again because I'm so blessed. And then I get to join this fight with you guys. What a privilege. What an absolute privilege.
So you answered my first 3 questions. What do you do with the note cards?
No, I'm a TV host, so I literally just keep talking. So you just have to cut me off.
You are going back tomorrow. I know what it's like, and there's a few people here who advocate, and we get whisked away, and we do around 10 events a day and interviews. And I know it's kind of an impossible question, but can you think of what it is that you're taking with you when you return home to your daughter, and just you're going to be back in Australia, and you're going to be far away again?
I'm never far away, by the way, never far away. Coming here for me was in no way about seeing evidence of what occurred. I didn't need to. I was staunch and I was in your corner and I was unapologetically standing with you 100% after the events of October 7. But what I'll take home with me is, if possible, and I don't know if it's possible, but an even greater sense of conviction, of purpose, of determination, because I underestimated who these people are. And I've seen some evil in my lifetime. My dad was this incredible man. He was a major general. He was a senator. He was in Iraq for a year, and he ran that war, not just for the Australian forces, but the US forces, the coalition forces. And I remember as kids, we used to say, it's so unfair that you guys have to follow the rules of war when ISIS and Al-Qaeda and these just inhumane people don't have to. Like, it's not fair. And Dad would always say to us, if we don't, then what are we fighting for? What are we trying to protect? What are we trying to save? And I didn't really understand it when I was younger, but I do now. And I think these guys, I think Hamas, they are worse than Al-Qaeda, worse than ISIS. And I watched the unedited vision. I stood on the porch where those two beautiful babies were taken. I stood in the room where 3 little kids, 2 girls my daughter's age, watched their parents be shot dead. And then they were burned to death and suffocated to death. I stood in that room. I didn't understand the level of depravity that occurred on that day. And if you think about how passionate my advocacy and my condemnation and my support has been, times it by 10 now, because you cannot coexist with what I saw. It's not even what they did, and that is incomprehensible. What I keep thinking about, I saw their faces. I saw their faces. The joy that they derived from not just killing, that wasn't a killing spree, that's far too kind a description. The joy they derived from the suffering of, I didn't think was possible even in evil. But seeing it firsthand, if I was an ally before, times it by 10. And my next platform will be even bigger. Lots of exciting things. And I will never, never, ever stop working to shift the narrative, because the current narrative in the world is completely screwed up.
So you actually took the words out of my mouth, because one of the cards talks about journalism and screwed up, and we'll get to that. I know that you've talked about your dad and what he did, but what was your dad like? And how the fuck are you how you are? I mean, that doesn't just happen when someone is, I like to think that there's talent, but then there's being persistent. So I don't know if it's like, what was your dad like, and did you get that from him? But what was your dad like, personally?
He was amazing, and I love being asked. And in Australia, he was very, very loved. And in terms of a humble brag, he is the most voted for individual politician in Australian history, which makes me incredibly proud. We lost him last year to cancer, which was such a loss for our country, given the current state of the world. He was so passionate about national security, so passionate about the world, so passionate about his country. And I feel like values like that are dying a lot in the West. So he was phenomenal. He was addicted to work. Mum would often say, we come second to work. But I would say to her, well, his work is defending our nation. So whilst, yes, he's absent, and yes, he's away a lot, and yes, he's in war a lot, I never felt like we came second. He was moody. My God, he could have a temper. He hated all my boyfriends with good reason. They were pretty bad.
We'll get to that.
Oh, God, really? Yeah. He loved Monty Python and Blackadder. He was just the most incredible human being. But what I guess I would look at in terms of the qualities of his that I would hope to have 1/100th of, when he entered politics, he could have done so many different things to make his life easier. You know, there's factions, there's all these games, there's manipulations. You side with this person, they'll reward you later with the ministry. You do this, you do that. He would never, he refused to ever compromise on his values, his morals. He was staunch. And something that I only found out later, I didn't quite, because I was a sports host for like 15 years before moving into this space. And Dad had gone to Israel in 2014 to investigate the war, because that's what we do to our democratic allies. We send people in to check. And we do it during war as well, as we've seen during this war as well. But I just mentioned his moral compass, which was second to none. And the headline, and even if you know Australia, the ABC is not our friend in terms of coverage. And even they had to report, I think the quote from him was, "They put us to shame in how they fight wars." And, you know, that really, I feel like there's a lot of him in me in this fight, definitely.
I was going to say, you seem to be describing yourself for a lot of people. What do you think that he'd be thinking right now about what you're doing? Like, would he be like, "You go, girl," or would he be like, "What are you doing, girl"?
He was a 6'6" major general. He never said, "Girl." What are you doing, girl?
How do you say it in Australia? Lass.
Oh God, I didn't want to cry.
What would he be saying to you?
You know, one of the things that that is, and I have this awful pain that hasn't gotten any better since he died. We were incredibly close. But I see it as such a privilege to feel so much pain, because if I felt less pain, it would have meant that he meant less. So I have this sick feeling all the time, and I've struggled. People say you can still talk to him in your head. You can still, and I've never felt that, but lately I have. And on October 7, that was 10 months after he died, I woke up in the middle of the night and I started to see the news alerts. And for the first time since he died, so for that had been 10 months, I went to call him, and I hadn't done that in 10 months. He cared so much about Israel. People used to stop me in the streets and say, "Your dad's such a great ally of Israel." And how naive was I? Because I would think, well, that's lovely, but why do you need allies? You know, I didn't understand. I think he'd be immensely proud. I think, you know, so much of what I do is for him. So much of, he cared so deeply about other people. He cared so deeply about, even in Iraq, you know, the way that he conducted that war to protect civilians when others around him didn't have that same mentality was phenomenal. I think he'd be really proud. I mean, he wasn't an emotional man, so, you know, I'd say, "Love you, Dad." He'd be like, thank you, Erin. Goodbye." Like, he was not, you know, he was a old school kind of bloke.
I think he'd be proud.
I was saying to Mum the other day when, you know, and I had another blow or something else happened, and I said to Mum, "You know what? I'm not even. It's not that I miss Dad now that this has happened, because Dad would have just said, 'Fuck him.'" So whenever like someone was mean to me or there was a bad article or something didn't work out, you know, he'd look at me and go, "Fuck him." And but I said to Mum, I'm actually not sad that he's not here for this, because clearly he's not really an emotional support kind of bloke. But what I was actually more sad about was that he wouldn't get to watch the comeback. He wouldn't get to watch what I'm about to do. And that makes me sadder. So
even though your on-screen presence is phenomenal, and I experienced that myself when you interviewed me, you're not afraid, and it is not like your father, the way that you're describing him. You see the vulnerability, you see the emotion, you see the pain, you see the sense of injustice. How do you look, you're fighting in the public eye, and in your country, in Australia, things are pretty bad. The anti-Semitism is bad, and have you always, like, you said that you were for 15 years a sports anchor. When did this start to shift. And I know that when we spoke, and you've been interviewed about this, that you are a victim of domestic violence, and I know that there's a connection there, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. I just want to ask you, the vulnerability, the pain, it comes through and you turn it into something good.
Thank you. I feel, and look, there are journalists who are amazing, who break stories, who have incredible sources and get all these amazing things. That's not me. That's never been my thing. I think when it comes to the emotion, I remember very early on in my career, someone said to me, because I would try and hide it, even in sport, and I mean, obviously, it's completely different playing fields. Like if someone hurt their knee, or if there was a dramatic loss and players were sad, I would feel empathy, and I have perspective now, clearly. But they said to me, don't ever be afraid to show emotion, because if you're feeling it, then the likelihood is the people at home watching are feeling it as well. And it's strange, because in some ways I'm an intensely private person, right? Like I don't go to events, or I don't post my daughter on social media. I'm very private. I try and protect what I can of my life, because so much of it is very public. But when I feel like I can make a difference by sharing, then I do. And my history with domestic violence was pretty severe. I had a couple of relationships. One when I was very young. It was my first relationship, and then one after that. And I'm very careful of not getting too specific with things, because I'm not motivated by bitterness or revenge. That's a whole other discussion. But I think for me with October 7, when I finally told my story, which was maybe 3 months ago for the first time, which was daunting. I hate the thought of someone thinking I'm a victim, or I don't know, it sits so uncomfortably with me, and maybe that's a lot of my dad in me, but I felt really strongly about doing it. But so when I saw the images of October 7, there were things within that just hit home. And I make the point that I don't think you ever recover from experiences like that. I don't think you guys as a nation will ever recover from that. I don't think you can. But you can't start that journey until you are safe. And I think that's what breaks my heart so much. I look at what everyone, not just the girls, all of them have gone through. And to just go through that, I mean, that's devastating. And then you start your journey and you never fully recover, because that's not realistic, but you get help. They're 400 plus days in, and God knows what else is. It's just...
And 100 still left, and we don't know how many
That's
are alive.
it. But what blows my mind is where's the UN? Like, I honestly, I said this on, I think it was my last show now, but the day of, stopping violence against women, are you kidding me? I look around the world, I look at feminists in Australia who try and get men sacked because they say in a workplace, oh, that's a nice jacket. Wow. Cancel him, he's gone. But then when it comes to what happened on October 7, complete silence.
And why is that? I mean,
it's a complex question, but I would say I don't think every case is the same. There are some people who are twisted, who are evil, who have agendas, who know exactly what occurred, but for whatever reason, whether they think they'll get more social media followers, or whether, whatever it is, they do that. I think there are other people who are scared. But like, pick your fear, right? Pick your heart, pick your scared. Like, I'm scared. I'm scared when I get death threats against my 6-year-old and specific ones. What are you afraid of? I'm afraid of something happening to my little girl. She's my whole world. She matters to me more than anything. But pick your heart. Do I be silent now? Do I not speak now? Do I not fight against this horror? And then what's her world like in 5 years? Because they're not ending here. They're not ending with you. They don't just want to kill you. They'll start with you, but they're already coming to the rest of us. So it's hard now to speak. Absolutely, it's hard. Scares me beyond belief at times. It really does. But I choose this hard over her having to live in a world where this evil has flourished and grown and has been allowed to become even bigger than what it is.
You know, I talk about fear a lot when I go and I speak at kids' schools, Jewish kids' schools, and they ask me, you know, am I afraid? And I think fear is something that we should all talk about, because it's not, we're all afraid. I mean, I'm afraid in Israel. I'm afraid when I walk like this, you know. But what helps me is the choice. Just the fact that I have a choice and I decide to make it, that fills me with strength. And I think that your decision to do what you're doing is exemplary.
Thank you.
And I want to say one more thing. I think maybe we here in Israel appreciate, and we appreciate you. But the decision that you make every week in a country where it's scary to be Jewish and it's scary to be an ally, that's not just speaking up, that's doing up. And you do. And I think that's the antithesis of fear. It's like, okay, you're scared, but what are you going to do about your fear? And I think that that's one of the biggest gifts that you've given as not an ally to the Jewish people, an ally
as a human.
As a human.
I'm just a human being.
Yeah.
Like,
but so many people don't do what you do.
No, I know. And you talk about the decision, and I'll be really honest with you. When I first spoke out, did I for a second think that condemning the atrocities of October 7 would be controversial? Not for a second. Even in a world that is baffling at times, did I for a second think no? And I had this woman on my show very early on, and I try and be quite professional when I'm interviewing, and even if I disagree with someone, I'm generally quite calm, but I could not be with her. And she was just unbelievable in her take on things and tried to justify the actions, refused to condemn them. And I thought, I can't have someone sit on my platform. And yeah, calling it out is one thing, but I had to challenge it, and I did it robustly, and I got very passionate toward her. And the reaction to that from her people was like nothing I'd ever seen before, in terms of the veracity of threats and it basically, I had police escorts taking me to work. I had federal police going underneath to check for bombs. Like, my daughter had to go to her dad for a period, and I'm a single mom, so I share her, and I find it hard enough already not having her all the time. She's my baby. So to then have to go through that was really difficult. Her dad, he's a policeman. He was really worried. And I get it. He didn't want me to enter this space. You know, there's a real extremist element in Australia, as you're seeing. And he's a policeman. He sees firsthand. He sees things that we don't.
How bad is it? Like, we see the news here, and we have Jewish friends and family. How bad is it?
It's bad, absolutely, but it is such a minority. I promise you, the vast majority of Australians are good, decent people, and they know right from wrong. They really do. You know, a lot of them are silent, and I wish they weren't, but I think that will change. I can feel the shift coming. I really can. But the extremist element is horrific. It's awful. And you know, I look at our government's reaction from day one. I look at the Opera House 2 days after, prior to any, and can I just say, this retaliation thing is, I hate that.
Which thing?
When people say, oh, before Israel have retaliated. It's not like they came and hit you and you went, we're going to get them back. Like, they took your people. It's not a retaliation. You're trying to get your people back, and you're trying to stop these people from doing what they did on October 7 to the rest of your people. That's not retaliation. I hate it when people say retaliation, but it was before Israel had done anything. And we had people in the Sydney Opera House chanting what they were chanting. We've had synagogues burnt down, cars set alight. It is absolutely crazy. But I mean, if you've got that ideology in you, if you are someone who is extreme in your views and all you've done since the start of October 7 is watch other people do similar things, not one of them has gone to jail, no one's paid a price. The government's saying, we agree Netanyahu's a war criminal. The government's saying, yeah, we agree it's genocide. The government's saying we should reward Hamas for what they did. Absolutely. The government's saying, hey, during a war where you were trying to fight for your utter survival against one of the worst enemies the world has ever seen, we're going to send someone over and do a little investigation, even though you're a democratic ally. When people in Australia who have the potential to be attracted to extremism see a weak government who almost justifies what they're doing, then they will continue doing it. They will get worse and worse. If on October 9th at the Sydney Opera House, if there had been a price to pay, and free speech is great, I love free speech. I fight tooth and nail for free speech. That wasn't free speech. That was incitement to violence. That was hate speech. If we had come down and said as a nation, we do not tolerate that, then Australia would look very different today, but we didn't.
I agree. Thank you. And while people can have political differences aside about this government or that government, which is all very well, one thing is for sure, they still have our people and we want them back. And we won't stop talking, and I know you won't either. I have quite a few questions. I went actually to social media to ask, and I want to honor some of the people.
Lord.
No, I know, this is a good one. Someone on LinkedIn, Benny Rubenstein, who might be here today, I don't know, maybe. Oh, I hear. He asked a very good question. So for the regular people like us, not the politicians, and how do you navigate life today? Meaning, if you speak up too much, you risk your career abroad. If you stay silent, you abandon your moral compass by not standing up for the truth. Can you, Erin, please address this broadly to professionals in academia? Shai Davidai is here.
Yeah, where is Shai?
Stand up, Shai. Stand up. And his wife, Yarden, stand up. Stand up.
Hi.
Please stand up. Thank you.
Legends.
So there's one man and his wife, professionals in academia, healthcare, tech finance, and beyond. Because again, in Israel, we have our shit and we're dealing with it. And maybe a lot of the Anglos who travel a lot, but I think that quite a few Israelis are not aware of just how bad it is out there, how you can be cancelled for saying the wrong thing at a work cafeteria, at a kid's birthday party. You can be cancelled. So what advice would you give?
I've been asking so many people here how they stay so strong, how they keep fighting, how they handle the sirens, the constant threat, the reaction of the world. And what they often say to me, in fact, more times than not, I have no choice. We have no choice. And I feel like that's me as well when it comes to choosing to speak up. I would just be incapable of not. And I feel like any company or brand that doesn't want to work with me because I know I don't like terrorists and I call them out and I support a democratic country trying to destroy them and trying to bring their people home. I know. I don't want to work with a company.
Yeah, but it's hard.
Oh, of course it is. And
it's livelihood and it's putting food on the table and people are scared. They're terrified.
What I would say is...
what would you say to them?
For starters, and I feel very strongly about this, I've absolutely lost things because of my stance. I've had relationships that have ended. I've had jobs that have ended. I will make the point though, and I'm very clear about this, that Sky News Australia was not that. They've been incredible in this space.
Yeah, let's clear the air about Sky Australia.
Yeah, no,
Just
they
say
have.
it.
I mean, don't get me wrong, they're idiots for not re-signing me, obviously. Obviously.
But clear the air
But-
about it.
Yeah, but I have this, I feel, and I'm an optimistic person, I think. I feel like cancel culture's dead. I think people are just sick to death of it. I'm getting this feel, and I even look at, even just my last, say, 6 months on radio, you know, that's a different when you've got ratings boxes in an area that's got a very big Islamic population. It's a, you know, that's different to cancel culture. But this whole thing of you say the wrong thing, we cancel you, I think people are just jack of it. I really do. And I'm seeing more and more examples of that.
So is that
My
encouragement?
job-
Is that encouragement to...
Yeah, look, absolutely. But I didn't need encouragement.
No, not you, for the others.
Yeah, do you know how many times I'll do a piece on Sky and then I'll get a message from a TV host at another network saying, that was incredible. I wish I could say that. Almost as though they're not allowed. And I go, no, you actually can, but you choose not to. And I get that it's hard. I get that people are scared. But I feel like when you change your behavior to try and appease this small, tiny group of ignorant knob shiners, sorry, I'm Australian, that's an awful term, then you let them win, right? You let them win. The vast majority of people are sensible, they're rational, they're kind. And I think the issue that we have is, yes, you have your useful idiots who are malicious and who have bad intent. But I was in the car the other day listening to the ABC because I don't want to be in an echo chamber, so I'm very strong when it comes to making sure I don't just watch Fox News or Mark Levin, who I love. And I heard this as I was getting out of the car. Day 400 and something of Israel's illegal invasion of Gaza. Like, it's crazy, right? Like, that is just, where do I start? I don't need to. I'm preaching to the converted here. But if you're a 45-year-old mum in Western Sydney, you've got 4 kids, cost of living crisis, you're tired, you're working 3 jobs, you're far away from this, you don't really understand it, you see it on the news a bit, you know that there's sad stuff, you see all those shots of kids in Gaza, you see all that. And then your narrative is shaped by that little soundbite you heard in the car, and then you go about your day. And she's not going to do what I do, which is read about it all day, watch it all day, investigate it, talk about it. She's busy, right? It's just, and it feels so far away from us. So there's no malice in that. That's why I feel so strongly about calling out just the complete hypocrisy, the falsehoods, the BS that exists in that kind of media.
So how do we... So that leads me to the next question. You know what I'm trying to do with I'm That Jew. Like, when the Jewish people lose their narrative, and we've lost their narrative over the last couple of decades because we haven't invested in it. And we need to. Because, I mean, I try and tell our 2 boys that you need to love yourself. But loving yourself is not enough. You also have to speak up for yourself. And I think we as Jewish people need to do that, because what happens is when you don't, all of a sudden, the silence of October 8th happens. And it happens in the media. So the media and journalism right now is, to me, beyond fucked up. My question to you is, as a professional, as someone in the industry, how is this going to change? Is it going to change? What can be done in the world of journalism and media that shapes people's minds? And I won't even talk about social media. But as a professional journalist, what's the solution? No pressure.
Look, I think, for starters, I used to be a sports host, so I would cover the Bathurst 1000, which is a 8 or 9 hour car race where they just do lap after lap after lap. And then at the end of the day, I'd have to put that 9 hours into 1 minute 20 in a news package. And the vast majority of those cars were perfect, went round and round, didn't hit the side. Someone won and was amazing, but the only thing that got put into that 1 minute 20 were the crashes, because that's the most engaging vision, it's the most exciting, it's the most spectacular. So I'd say this about the media. it's never a representation of the silent majority, almost never, because it just doesn't rate. It's not that interesting. They're silent, they're mainstream, they're sensible, they're rational. How do you fix it? You know what drives me crazy, and a lot of things drive me crazy, clearly.
It's because you're crazy.
Yeah, I absolutely have a fair bit of that, no doubt. But people say to me about, oh, Israel's just so bad at PR. How can we do our PR better? I'm sorry. You had 1,400 people massacred, including children, on October 7. And you guys have to come up with a PR strategy? Like to convince the world you're victims?
I don't agree with you.
In terms of what?
I think that we failed at PR or our voice for 20 or 30 years, and this is the result. If we don't invest in our voice...
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And not Israel, anyone. If you don't invest in your narrative, then what's going to happen is your enemies, and we have enemies, who are investing in their narrative are going to come and wipe you out. I mean, you know that I have a branding agency. So,
yes.
So what happens? Why do we deliver brands? Why do we build brands? And you know this, we build them because if you don't, as a company, have an authentic story that's differentiated and relevant to the audience and based on truth, then your competition will destroy you. And it's a matter of time.
See,
and that's what happened. And that's what happened. So it's not PR.
We're about to fight.
Oh, yeah, let's fucking fight.
Not fight, just disagree. Yeah.
Shy is like clapping his ass off. I was on his podcast and he was just like, ah.
I love that.
But it's not that you need the PR after October the 7th. But if you didn't have a voice, and I'm talking about a voice, because what's PR? It's amplifying something. It's amplifying your voice. So if you don't have a voice, and if you don't have a story, if people don't know who you are, then the day after October 7th, where is the voice of the Jewish people? And I'm being harsh. We need to invest in that again. We need to invest in that again, because you're fighting for our voice. We're fighting for our voices. It's not PR, it's what's our story? Who are we? How are we being misrepresented? I'd love to hear your take on that. And I don't disagree with you. I just don't agree with you completely.
No, it's very healthy. I love that. What I would say to that is, I think, I mean, you know more about branding than probably anyone else in this room, definitely, probably most other people in the world. But I cannot agree with you that because you don't feel like you had invested enough in your voice, which may be the case, absolutely. You know much more about that than I do. That in some way, shape or form, the reaction of the world is because of that.
It's not because of it. Let me clarify. It's not because of it, but it's contributed to our, what the hell is going on?
Because and as I said, I'm not Jewish, I'm not from Israel, and you guys live this, I don't. So I'm not trying to say I know better, I don't. I'm just, my take on that would be, I don't need to know the story of a human to know that burning their children alive is wrong. I don't need that pre-existing narrative. You know, it could be a tribe of people I have never heard of, have no idea about, don't understand. And if that had happened, the entire world would have wrapped its arms around them and they would be heroes. They would be heroes. So I think...
Why?
Because they're not Jewish, because they're not from Israel. Yep. You know, and that's just, you know, I didn't understand it prior to this. I didn't realize that it still existed, but I can't, and I don't know, but I can't justify this in any other way. I can't look at what occurred and think, how are you not the victim? Like you are like there is no more deserving victim in the history of the world than, yet all of a sudden you're to blame, you're being condemned. The Pope is coming out, and my Pope, I'm Catholic, and I swear, and I haven't been to church that often, I get it. Okay, yes, I'll go back soon, unless I convert, just joking. But, but the Pope saying overnight that condemning the cruelty of Israel's bombings in Palestine because of Gazan children. thanks, Scoop, we all hate any hurt and death to Gazan children. There's not one person in this room that would not feel sick at the thought of a 2-year-old child anywhere in the world being bombed.
100%.
That's horrific. But if I could give the Pope some advice, if he legitimately cares about those little kids in Gaza, as we all do, then potentially he could, I don't know, use his massive platform to put pressure on the terrorists who are killing them. And that's Hamas. Because all it would take, and I know he doesn't particularly care about Israeli children because he doesn't seem to give them much airspace. But if he put pressure, if Biden had put pressure, if Starmer had put pressure, if Albanese, if so many weak leaders around the world, and we can all care about the same thing. We can say, yeah, we agree, we want to stop the death in Gaza every day of the week, absolutely. How we do that is ending this war. And how we end this war is Israel needs its people back, needs all its people back, and the threat can't exist anymore. Because what country is going to live with those savages on your doorstep? I wouldn't. I mean, it just, as I said, I haven't been through what you're going through, and I can never understand what it's like. Regardless of all I go through by standing with you, it's nothing compared to what you go through. But there is no other way I can understand or I can comprehend the reaction of the world other than you're Jewish, you're from Israel. It's appalling, and that breaks my heart.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to shift a little. We talked about being Jewish and Israel and anti-Semitism. You've seen some of my work that I have been speaking up for 15 years about the threat of Islamic extremism, jihadism, and how that is a root cause of so much that's going on. And that doesn't mean that we're perfect, whether it's this government, the last one, the one 20 years ago. What do you think about the average person, like let's say in Australia where you're from, that what they don't understand about the threat of, not Islam, the threat of radical Islam? And even though it's a minority, because you go back to the Second World War, and you don't look at the Second World War, look at the 7 years or the 6 years before the Second World War, the rise of Hitler Youth, the indoctrination of hate. What do you think the world doesn't know about radical Islam?
It's a great point you make, and I think that's one of the reasons that in some ways I feel as strongly as I do. So I grew up in Indonesia. I spent 7 years in the country with the world's largest Islamic population, and devout Muslim women were like mothers, aunties, sisters to me. They helped raise me. We're still in contact. I was back in Indonesia, in Jakarta in August this year. I speak the language fluently. So when people say, you're Islamophobic, I'm like, well, no, actually. I live there. I speak the language fluently. I fight for those little kids as much as I fight for anyone else. And it's an important differentiation to make, absolutely. But that doesn't mean that we can not be really sensible and really cautious, and we've got to stop being scared. I think people need to stop. Politicians are terrified to say they're not terrified. They're not terrified when it comes to things thrown around about Israel, but they are batshit terrified when it comes to saying anything that might be in some way, shape or form looked at as being anti-Muslim. And it's not hard to call out extremism. That should not be controversial. And our leaders are somehow terrified of it. What I can tell you, my experience with people in Indonesia, a population of 300 million, the biggest growing middle class in the world, genuinely good people, really good people. They hate Islamic extremism more than we do. It hurts them just as much. what we need to do is somehow get leaders around the world, get their own leaders. Because I had private meetings with some pretty high up people, and they were scathing in their assessment of what happened on October 7. I then looked everywhere to find their public stance, and it didn't exist. So I feel like there's just this attitude in the world where people are too afraid to say anything negative that they might be branded racist or Islamophobic, but they're completely comfortable with throwing allegations at Jewish Israeli people that are just completely unfounded. And I don't know where that comes from.
I think it comes from the fact, maybe if I may, that there's not many of us, 16 million approximately, and there's anywhere between 1.6 and 1.9 billion Muslims. And what I'm hoping for, look, I've worked with Leonard Cohen or his team on initiatives for peace. I've mentored Palestinians. I've never voted Netanyahu. I'm a centrist. My dream is that the Muslims, the moderate Muslims around the world in all the countries will rise up against extremism which is hurting them. I hate it when I have friends who are friends of a lot of Palestinians in the States. They can't speak to them because of the indoctrination. And it and that's the thing, the leadership. I think there's a problem there within the Muslim community that I'm hoping.
You've actually nailed it, and
no one talks about it.
That's actually a really good point. And you talk about, and I just did then. I said, no, they're all great and I love them. But there actually comes a day when not speaking out, particularly in that community, is not good enough. And I look at Australia and I look at community leaders there, and I'm not seeing anywhere near enough strength. And you're right. It's okay to say to me behind closed doors that we don't agree with that. It was awful. But until the vast majority of the Muslim population around the world can stand up and say, they are not us, this is horrific, we condemn it, then how does it ever end? You know, you need everyday people to have the strength to do that. And the most powerful people in the world when it comes to being able to end this Islamic extremism are Muslims. They have more power than any of us ever will. And that's why when someone who is a Muslim comes out and is so vocal against it, and I've had a few of them on my show, their voice carries so much more weight. So much more weight. So you're right, you know, I feel like it's, you know, there's a real weakness in the general community to come out and say, we don't accept that. And then you kind of go, well, if you're not coming out and saying it, do you? You know, it's a really hard one.
Yeah, and it's hard to talk about it because even now, as we're sitting down, we have to be careful with what we're saying because we know that there are good people out there. But I think that that's not enough. You need to speak up. I'm going to ask you something which is going to be a little difficult, and I might get some shit for it too. I'm going to try to put it in a way. You're a friend. Like you've proven it, not by saying, but you've proven it by doing it. And you've made a commitment to continue to do it. And when you're friends, you ask people sometimes uncomfortable questions. It's not about you. But don't chicken out on this one, okay? What could we, and I'm not talking about October 7th and the aftermath of October 7th, but what could we, as the Jewish people, as Israel, what can we do better? As a friend, as a professional in communications, which is what we're talking about, and take a minute. What can we do better? What do you think we can do better?
No. And I'm taking my time because I'm really trying to to do this properly and to think about it, because my initial response would be very similar to my earlier one, which is, why do you have to do anything, let alone do it better? But
Malasot, as we say in Hebrew. What can you do?
Yeah, I feel like, I actually feel like that almost buys into that victim blaming mentality. And I think you guys, you shouldn't be sitting here thinking, what can we do better? You should be sitting here saying, you know what, we're not going to apologize anymore. We're not going to apologize. We're not going to walk meekly. We're not going to try and figure out and look at what we do and figure out where we're going wrong and what.
You're so not Jewish.
You were, I correct. But maybe that's a good thing, you know, in some ways, in that it's a different perspective. But I feel like...
That's why I asked.
Yeah. And honestly, what could you do differently? Like, absolutely. Absolutely. I get that completely. But when it comes to the attitude of other people coming in, because you hadn't... We had people chanting, gas the Jews, F the Jews, 2 days after October 7. You hadn't done anything then. So I'm talking about the reaction of people that you don't want them in your corner. And this whole Israel has a right to defend itself. Are you, like, come on. That's crazy. You don't buy into or believe the radical left, woke, nutcase brigade that are trying to tell everyone that you guys are evil. No, you're not. That's crazy. Most people know that's not true. So don't fall into the trap of feeling like you have to justify or feeling like you have to be ashamed or apologetic or... No. You were the victim of the most horrific attack and loss of life since the Holocaust. You don't have to prove to anyone that you're worthy or that that's... I just think it's crazy. And I probably say this so naively because I haven't been what you guys have been through for centuries and centuries. But I cannot, in my head, fathom that a country who has suffered the way you have suffered and continues to suffer has to somehow do something better. I don't think you do. And I promise you I'm being completely honest.
No, I think honesty is what we're looking for. I know that we have to be aware of time. So I have 2 questions, kind of like to the, I could go with the rapid response questions, the Spitfire questions, or maybe I could open it up to 2 questions to the audience if anyone would like to ask one. There's a pot of something coming. Hold on a second.
Oh, bless you.
Hi.
And I thank you for what you do, and for the Jewish people, for the humanity, and for our girls, because I also have a girl. And I cannot believe that she needs to be stronger than me, but she will have to. And thank you for making this world a better place.
Thank you. Does anyone have a question? I'll take it from the very good-looking man over here that I happen to know. Hold on.
Erin, thank you. Starting. Having sat across from others who are not Jewish, who, as you put it, are quite happy to voice their support for us in private but not publicly, and even having sat across from people who will argue with you, as you have in your shows, do you have any sense, though, of why it's so difficult for others who are not Jewish and who, putting aside standard pat answers, why is it so difficult for them to see the truth as you see it?
I wish I knew the answer definitively. I don't. I think what I said earlier about that clip on the ABC, when you've got mainstream media that is reporting casualty numbers from Hamas as though it is fact. So I host an opinion show, right? So I I hosted an opinion show. Still getting used to saying that. Thank you so much. You're amazing. Yes, thank you. I feel the issue, the mainstream media is so full of a particular ideology that is not particularly sympathetic to your cause. In fact, understatement of the year. And I feel like people who you know are not bad people or who don't have malice or who aren't out there waving the flag of Hamas on university campuses, they are getting what little information they know from sources that are just so wrong and so false. But as I said, they don't then go and look at things themselves. And that's not actually even an insult because, as I said, people don't have time. So I feel like whilst we still have that kind of narrative being pushed out, that everyday people who aren't as invested as we are have this story, this narrative in their head. And I don't know how to change it. That's what I try and do.
All right, there's one more. I don't want to stop you from answering, but there is a gentleman here who had his hand up, and we have time for one more question.
Yes, of course.
Sorry, everyone. I mean, I'd like to stay here all night, so.
I was really enjoying the pot of flowers because, girls, you probably get this more than blokes, but like having to suck in up here on stage is exhausting. It was nice to actually be able to cover my stomach. Thank you.
This is
Hi.
Avi, and I'm going to, אני אתרגם לך. בסדר. המיקרופון איתך.
אז קודם כל אני לא כזה מבין אנגלית, אבל אני מבין שאת אישה מאוד מאוד מדהימה. את אישה שיש לך המון המון כוחות, תעצומות נפש, ואצלנו ביהדות זה לא משנה מי אתה ואיפה אתה. מה שחשוב זה באמת האישיות שלך.
אחי, שנייה, תן לי לתרגם. וואו. Erin, I'm going to translate, ואז תמשיך. He's saying that he can tell, he can feel that you're an incredible woman, a very strong woman. And he says that in Judaism, אתה אמרת, תמשיך ואני אתרגם, שביהדות.
ביהדות אומרים שכל אדם חשוב, כל אדם יש לו ערך.
He says that in Judaism, every human being is important. Every human being has value.
ואת מוכיחה זאת. אמרת מתוך מה שהבנתי שאת לא יהודייה, אבל אני יכול להגיד לך שיש לך נשמה מאוד מאוד גבוהה, נשמה עילאית גדולה.
He's saying that even though you're not Jewish, that you have the soul of someone Jewish, and it's very strong.
ואומרים שאשת חיל מי ימצא. אז אנחנו יודעים שמדינת ישראל יש לה על מי לסמוך, נשים כמוך שתומכת ומעודדת ונותנת מכל מה שהיא יכולה, בכל הפרמטרים, בכל ההיבטים. אז אני רוצה לברך אותך ולומר לך, יהי רצון שהקדוש ברוך ייתן לך כוחות ותעצומות נפש, להמשיך בכל מה שאת עושה, שאלוהים ייתן לך ברכה, הצלחה בכל מעשה ידייך, ובאמת, אשרייך ואשרי חלקך שאת נמצאת בצד של האור. יהי רצון שנזכה להשבת החטופים בעזרת השם, בזכות נשים צדקניות, בזכות נשים כמוך.
So many things. תודה רבה. תן לך חיבוק קודם כל. What he said is that he's blessing you. Eshet Chayil, it's like the woman of valor, thank you. And he gave a prayer, and amen, amen. Thank you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was so beautiful, I think.
Guys, there's...
Trusting you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was hard to translate, so thank you for the valor. It was very, very beautiful.
Oh, thank you. That
Look,
means so
we
much.
have to wrap. But now, remember I said at the beginning that, you know, the big gift was the hug from all of us. But there is a couple of small ones, and then we will wrap. So, Carrie, there's one thing, and you'll be familiar with it. First of all, I'd love you to open that, please. Little flag there.
I was at an event earlier tonight with a bunch of lawyers. And someone, so much more fun. But there are a couple of people from that event. Yours
So it was a lot of
way more
fun.
inspiring. Love you. But someone, a soldier, gave me the Israeli flag patch that he was wearing on October 7. Oh. And I just yeah.
This isn't that. But thanks
oh,
for...
that's the worst thing I've done, hasn't it? I've essentially just
you
said
suck.
something that can...
Yeah, I can't live up to that.
This can't ever be as good. That's awkward.
I'm kidding. I don't care.
Oh, I love... And actually, just side note, when people ask for a photo for these things, like that's like a hot photo, right? So I like that photo. But I've just realised that it's
Wait,
actually...
are you talking about me or you?
Me. But I'd rather you think you be surprised in a pleasant way than be like, oh... Photoshop. So I need you to use like a somewhat semi-less attractive photo in future so that you're like, wow, rather than...
You're looking good, hon. You're looking good.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
That's
amazing.
It says that TVO is fighting for moral clarity 24/7, honorary Jew. And it's part of a campaign that's been seen 40 million times. And that's for you. And then there's just one last thing, and I promise we'll wrap.
Thank you so much.
I've got other things to give you, but this is the one that I want you to open. This is something...
Oh, bless.
And you want me to hold the mic for you?
Yes, thank you.
Something that I made with Miriam Merenfeld. Look at what it says. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I'm that fighting for moral clarity 24/7 honorary Jew.
Yes.
That is
yes.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So much.
Guys, this is for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I think now you want to, I think we'd like to thank a few people, right?
Right.
I might just very quickly, if that's okay, just say thank you so much for everything. You guys are just so generous and incredible. To the families of hostages who are here, so much love for you. And I promise you, I don't know how effective or powerful I can be, but I will fight to get your people home every day until they are home, loudly and unapologetically.
In fact...
yeah.
In fact, what, Erin, with your permission,
Yes.
what you and I can do right now is typically I say, 3, 2, 1, I'm that Jew. And we can do that. But actually, for the hostages, I'd like us to change that tonight. And I'd like to film us, all of us, shouting at the top of our voices, let our people go. Are you guys with us if we do that? Okay.
Absolutely.
So let's stand up. We're going to share this on social media and say it loud. Begin with Erin. And we have one thing to say in 3, 2, 1. Let our people go! Let's hear it again. Let our people go!
Okay, so thank you very much. It was such an honor for us. Erin, your beautiful voice has become a beacon of truth and courage. As President Peres used to say, the main thing in life is not what to be, but what to do. There is no such thing as a job, there is only a mission, and we truly feel that this is your life mission. Thank you very much for what you do for us, for what you do for Israel, for what you do for Jews all over the world. I'd like to thank Eitan for selflessly working so hard to bring Israel's voice to the world. I'm so proud and thankful to have you here on the stage together with Erin. I'd like to say special thanks and love to Natalie and Nati Ginor for their important role in making this event happen and for standing up for Israel. I'd like to call upon the stage Ziv Koren, who's also a knight in our special night. Do you remember the photo exhibition that you just saw outside? This is a person who's behind everything. He is doing the job of minister. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You're doing a great job, Ziv. Come on the stage with us. You're doing a great job, and he's actually sacrificing his well-being, safety, everything to bring back the pictures. Exactly, come over there. Bring it up, the pictures, and show us what's going on. And just before we go, I want to say that for us, optimism is not a privilege, it's a work plan. It means that you have to do everything possible to make this world a better place. So remember, dream big and be optimistic. Thank you very much for coming.
There's one more thing I'd like to say, and this is on a personal note before any of you just go. Erin's incredible. This would not have happened without the help of my wife, I'm a one-man show, can't do it without my wife, Carrie, who is here, and there's some people that really helped us, Justine, Ruth, Daniel. Everyone can make a difference if you can walk out with one feeling today, with one thing, put politics aside, everyone fight. Everyone speak up. Make your voices heard. Erin, at the end of the day, as amazing as she is, she's just a regular person, and so am I.
Let's not, go that
And
far.
a
Regular is a little...
irregular, extraordinary, regular person. Come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, Eitan, massive round of applause.
You can
He
do
does the most incredible
more.
work.
Keep
Thank
doing
you.
more. Keep doing more. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Toda.